Well, look at you go.
I know. Woohoo.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's 16 years old, so it's not like we're, you know, walking in high cotton. Probably all there is corn stalks actually beat right down to it, but
Where you gonna live?
no, it's, I hope to buy this pickup this morning because the Yukon is just not. Otherwise, it can pull it, but it's, the wheelbase isn't long enough. The suspension's too soft. I have all kinds of money into it, and it just rocks and rolls. And even when I'm not pulling anything, you go through a bump. It's fine this way. It's this way. Brand new. All four of them, brand new. Less than 6 months of make sure. And when you go over a bump, it's right at the level right. Yes. It's like this drops out in front of me and then it catches up, but you know, and I've driven those before, and he's driven other Tahoes and last week and they do the same thing.
Okay. It's 8:30. I'm Darren Hamilton. I'm the chairman of the Board of Supervisors for Jefferson County, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. First order of business on our agenda is to acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting. I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to meet with our county engineer, Scott Coyne.
Good morning. I think about 1.4, 1.3 inches of rain
Sounds about right.
today. Dust. Roads aren't that dusty.
Okay.
So we've been doing some brush cutting, mowing around the two bridges that are going to be bid on. One of them in October and one in November, the bundle bridges. One of them we need to move the power lines on, so we'll be in whatever trees are in the right of way on that side, we'll cut them down.
Mm-hmm.
Power company's gonna do the rest. I don't know if there's that many that are still in the right of way, because our company came through there, well, a contractor of theirs went through there this past summer and cut a bunch of things down then, so. But there's gonna be a few little trees or something in the right of way on the 257th bridge. That's where we're moving the power line. The other bridge, the power line is staying where it is. On Pisha Avenue. Yeah. There's a dirt road part of it, and there's been two, not even exactly sure what size, but you know, like 3 foot diameter, and no more than a 4 foot diameter in there, and the water goes over the road. It went over this spring, same time that the one other road washed out, and so I had talked to Billy about putting a tanker car in there, and he just thought, well, it's a dirt road, we'll just leave it alone. Was his opinion, and then he came back to me and said, let's put a tanker car in because they had to fix it a second time, and so we put like a 9.5 foot diameter tanker car in there, which is more drainage than it had before. So
what other words, I guess the question I'm asking is that we're always.
Yes. And when I went and looked at that while we were doing tanker cars nearby. And that's when I asked Billy about kind of the history that he knew about it. And there's water standing on both sides of it, and it's like a wetland upstream and things like that. Which that's still the same, but now if there's a heavy rain, it's not as likely to go over the road. It might still do that. But not as often.
Right.
And then did some equipment maintenance. We've gotten in our loader,
Oh, okay.
the cat loader, Caterpillar. And then mowing, still doing mowing on mostly on gravel shoulders now. Some concrete patching and some pothole patching with the total patcher machine. And rock hauling to spots. Sign repair. And then I mentioned before that we were extending the salt shed. So that we could about double the capacity of it. And they roofed that. Unless they've already finished up with the nailing. I mean, the only thing they had left, as far as I knew, before they could put it to use was to put some big spikes in on the inside through the wall planks. And they ran out of nails, so.
In the salt shed.
Yeah, so they need to put, it's roofed and they need to put more, the contractor needs to put more nails in. And then at the end of the new roof, there's some wood there that is new and it's not finished yet. And we're gonna put the finish on it. So as far as I know, it should be ready pretty quick to put salt in.
And to purchase that piece of equipment that we've been borrowing, like from Washington County, that tears up the road. That's one of the reasons we bought the bigger.
Yeah, well, we couldn't borrow it from Washington County. We had it reserved, and now we can borrow it. I haven't talked to Washington County yet about to Jacob about whether it's available to us or already spoken for by a bunch of other counties. But our intention is to get our own after July 1st. And so, but that's a matter of the next budget. So.
Right. County loans it out, do they charge for that?
I don't think they do, but since we haven't gotten it, I'm sure.
Well, I was just wondering whether or not our policy would be
we could do that. I mean, and if they did, like one thing we could consider is they do have, the state has a rental rate for equipment. Now, I don't even know if that piece.
It seems we talked about borrowing it and then getting it. We were gonna have to rent it.
Well, we would have had, if we couldn't get it from Washington County to rent it, we'd probably have to got it from Caterpillar rental if they rented it out.
Right.
So what is kind of do a lot of what do they do on their roads that allows rock road seem to pothole as much. They don't seem to have the, and it's a different process. And I know specifically down in front of Morris Park, it was a test plot at some point, and I didn't know whether you were really promised.
Have their own quarry networks. I talked to their supervisors about potential if we could buy rock from them, because I agree, their rock seems clear and it's.
I was gonna bring that up, that they do have their own quarry.
It just seems like their roads, and not finding fault, I don't misunderstand, but it seems like their roads are conditioned differently, if you will. You know, you drive down through Lacey and then go out and run into Lacey and wind your way around, you know, through Fairfield and all that. So they get a lot of traffic, and I don't know, maybe they've got to maintain one more often than I think they do. Just, I think the thing that caught my eye, and I mentioned to my wife, was that the rock that they use is so much smaller in size.
It's lighter in color.
Yeah.
Because
At first blush, you have to stop and look, but at first blush, it almost looks like not much more than limey chips. It is bigger than that, but considerably smaller than what we use.
Maybe half
Yeah.
rather than 3/4 inch.
But I
roads,
figured they
so-
had to do something to their road to be able to do that.
We dismantled some of the roads that went down through the lake. And did underwater reef structures there. I mean, so I'm familiar with the roads. I don't know. I guess I didn't notice anything that much different about their roads than other counties and ours, but that's been a while, so maybe I haven't been down there to examine how they do the roads, but I could go down and see Lake Gina.
Oh, I know. I think they started the process. That was one of
Mhm.
And I don't remember what it was, but maybe it's something like what we're talking about in nutmeg, that they chewed the whole thing up, they infused stuff into it, laid it back out, and it just hardened like a rock.
Oh, and if they're doing base stabilization, like a lot of counties are, if they're borrowing equipment or whatever, that's what we intend to do. So, I mean, when we get to doing that, I think our roads will be.
Well, the base stabilization that we did on Juniper, 260th, 270th, that's where we pulled everything up and then stabilized it, and then we've been waiting to blade the top yet on there for a final time, but
That was stabilized with calcium chloride.
okay.
Not based on,
Okay.
but you know, some people do stabilization.
the only base stabilization we did was out on nutmeg, right?
Okay.
But Gary caught me, it says hose will sign.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. There, I've admitted both of them. Okay.
Who charged for this?
Well,
And there are various materials you can do base stabilization with, and there's different experiments going on and studies available. I think base one looks good amongst the different ones for base stabilization. So we'll probably do another one of those, but get some other if something else comes out through the experience.
Do we have it seems to me as when I was talking to Brent a while back, do we have a new traffic count?
Well, there might be an old one on a shelf or something.
Well,
Is there one we
we've
could-
talked.
We could put on Nutmeg in October just to get an idea of what that traffic's like. Or could we find one? I'd really like to get a count in October. Because I also just found out that a lot of truckers are going from Highway 1 and going that way, so they don't have to go through Fairfield.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that in the past we tried to get that paved. I mean, I like that Osage is paved. I mean, I think that's a
Well, I
good
think
thing.
if we have a real accurate October traffic count, because it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, the last time we counted it was
It was in July. And that was like
400,
Oh, yeah.
over 400 vehicles a day.
Yeah, but it was in July and it was the week right after the farmers get out of the field and before they start doing hay or anything. So it was like the slowest time of summer to get traffic counts.
Well, we dropped the ball on that.
Well, and that was DOT who did that one.
Well,
So I'd like
I
to
mean,
see.
I
it.
mean, we did, I mean, on the road itself, it was, one of the members of our board was up for
Expedient?
re-election.
This was a few years ago, right?
Yeah, and it was.
Before our time.
It was, and it was, you know, so the excuse was, he said, well, if the railroad comes along and tears out that underpass, then we have to redo the road. We know that. You know, if the railroad tears out that underpass, we should have taken advantage of the RISE grant at that point. We could probably got that overbridge aligned for half the cost, but we didn't. And I'm not sure that there's anything we can do about it now other than just pay it. But and it's easy for me to say this, I guess, because I'm not going to be here, but I do think we dropped the ball on that, and I do think it needs to be paid, and we probably should have paid it before we paid.
And we did get some of it paid, like the part there by the Heartland and, the railroad, I just don't foresee them forking over a couple $1 million.
No, I don't either. That's my point. The issue was, you know, I remember when we talked to him about, or said to him, well, what we'll do is we'll just put a bunch of dirt in there and make it an at-grade crossing. I'm telling you, they weren't happy campers about that one.
No, not green cross.
Yeah.
Or taboo with them.
Well, we were talking about the site issue with the road and the underpass. And well, we could take care of the site issue by just making it an.
Is there any signage we could put up out there close to the underpass? Because it is pretty dangerous. I mean, people.
You know, it's a series of 3 signs on each side. They say to yield.
Well, it's good to have it there, but it just, people still go barreling
We
through.
didn't have anything like that before. Like a narrow bridge sign, and didn't really convey, and so we did the same thing on one out on Cedar Avenue. Wait, there's probably not traffic on a third one that we have in the county that's narrow.
Well, even if we don't have a traffic counter, could you borrow one from another county for a month? Two?
Well, we did something.
Okay.
How expensive are sensors or whatever you want to call it that alert a driver from one direction in a narrow area like the underpass that there's oncoming traffic and past a certain point so that they should wait because they can't get through.
You mean like when you go through some towns and they have the blinking light if the stoplight's gonna change?
Yeah, something along those lines, only that would blink to let Darren know that, hey, there is somebody in your path and you're not gonna be able to get through till they.
Well, the vision is good there. You can see because it comes down like this. It's just that people try to get through there before the other guy.
Right.
So
Okay.
it is, I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah. Those advanced with the flashing like you're talking about are usually tied into electronics for stoplights and that type of thing. You see them more often there, especially on roadways where, like the 63 bypass around Muscatine
Right. that's what I
has
was thinking.
quite a few of those on it. And then I know they use them for the school zone up at, well, flashing light just for the school zone at Hills, but that's actuated by another location. Somebody turns that on and then creates that 55-mile-an-hour speed zone during school hours. So,
And then, you know, some of the ones that are warn of somebody coming from the other way, or if you're coming up to an intersection that warns that there's traffic coming from some direction where the sight distance isn't the greatest. There's 4 lanes there, and so 2 lanes each way, and they have sensors embedded in the pavement, things like that. I mean, some of those systems are $100,000, but for 3 or 4,000, we could get something that works on solar power and just sends a signal to the other side that there's somebody coming the other way. I mean,
Chauncey, what's the liability for the county? I mean, he's got that sign.
Well, it probably depends on the circumstances surrounding any possible accident. You can always make an argument. So really, our objective should be to limit any argument you can make.
But if we, just out of curiosity, if we acknowledge by putting in acknowledge that there's an issue there, are we, that's what I'm looking for, do you then put yourself in further harm's way?
No, absolutely not. If we recognize that there's a possibility of heightened danger, we shouldn't not notify the public of that heightened danger if you're acknowledging that heightened danger. What we need to do is we acknowledge that heightened danger, definitely do anything we can to mitigate any possible accidents or exposure.
and the speed limit's also reduced to 45 through there. You know, people go, wow, there's underground roads, and they're not 45, they're 55 and 50 at night. And well, the difference is this has that railroad underpass, and there's signs all the way through that 45 warning of the narrowness of the underpass. So I'm thinking that the 45 is definitely appropriate.
Okay.
Well,
Can you let us know when they start traffic count out there, please?
Okay.
all right, is that all the questions we have for Scott on this? We'll move on to discuss and consideration of funding share of consultant fees for preparing BUILD build grant application. And Scott has given some information that we just received this morning. So you want to, is that what this is about?
Yes.
The Iowa County Engineers Association?
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it.
Not very closely, no. It'd be nice to have an explanation or a synopsis of what's actually in this and what we need to look at.
There's a lot of unknown factors involved in it, so I can't say X, Y, and Z are absolute answers, the truth, all that. I mean, X, Y, Z are just estimations, possibilities. The idea is to apply for a grant that you might or might not get any funding for. So,
And what I like is they haven't determined the criteria yet.
right. So I discussed this with the board. As soon as I heard about it, I was just like, I a week or less, or I mean, a week or so ago. And they're just basing some of their comments on the way a program like this went before, and the way, I mean, the program for the bundled bridges, that's a similar thing. But we seem to know more about that program when we made the application than we do about this.
So there's no money due now. It would just be if the grant was awarded, and then this fee would be split between the counties. Is that what this says?
Well, number one, each county is being asked to fill in the application, which they do have one of those, and or say that there's no bridge intended to be submitted. Then step two is, amongst all the bridge candidates that are submitted, they'll be ranked by the Iowa County Engineers Association Build Grant Committee. Then step three is the candidates that they picked from that process will then be included in an application that's going to be sent and reviewed by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Yes. Cost they're estimating might be about $100,000, and then so step three is those final candidates included in the application that's sent to be reviewed by U.S. Department of Transportation, and that application is going to cost, they're estimating, around $100,000, and only the ones that get sent with that application will be expected to divvy up the cost. So if there's 40 bridges, there's about 100,000. I mean, we're looking at, I mean, plus or minus 40 bridges, we're probably talking about somewhere around 2,000, 2,500, or something like that. Well, when I first heard about this, I was thinking 25 million for state of Iowa. That is probably still not an unreasonable guess, but I don't know that they even know how much we get.
Okay, so what do you need on this? Do we need to approve this, or?
Well, I'm asked on the application that I'm filling out, does the Board of Supervisors agree to fund their share of the consultant fee, the creation of the final build grant application, even if the grant is not awarded? And the second question is your county willing and able to come up with match funds in the event they are required, which would be local funds, farm to market funds on the farm to market system, and
Bridge funds.
yeah, HBP bridge funds. Let's see. So the bridge we're talking about doing is on the farm to market system. So I don't know how we want to. Yeah, you can go ahead and say that on the application, though, Bill, if you want to make a motion. I don't need a resolution or anything like that.
Well, I think for the record, we need to vote on, not necessarily a resolution, but a motion to. I guess what I'll do is I'll just make a motion to authorize engineer to file an application for the build grant program.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Dimmitt to move ahead with the bridge program, this build bridge program grant. Second from Sandquist. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we'll have you go ahead and do the paperwork. And again, if there are 40 bridges that are involved with this and the fee is $100,000 for that, it's only going to be about $2,500 then is what we're looking at. So at least at this time. And that doesn't include if we do any matching or other funding to help build a bridge that may be one here in our county if it's chosen. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can only submit one this time, so then we'll be like the level bridges where we had two.
Right.
What's their timeline on determining this, or do we know?
All they've said is this has got to go fast.
Yep, go faster, the money disappears. All right, so let's move on to discuss and consider hiring Donna Marlene Dobson as a correctional officer. There's a letter in our packet from Sheriff Morton with effective September 22nd, 2020, Donna Marlene Dobson has been hired as a correctional officer with a starting salary of $32,500. I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to approve this hire. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're going to move to discuss and consider liquor license for Whitetail Country Estates for the Miller Englehart wedding.
Not receiving more to oppose this. So I would make a motion.
I've not seen anything either.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries for the liquor license for Whitetail Country Estates for the Miller Englehart wedding. Okay. So we'll move on to discuss and consider nuisance property cleanup list.
Sent out an updated list. Kent had indicated last week that Hugh Hamilton up in Hamilton, property cleaned up, so they revised the list. And our last discussion, Pat advised that we should approve or publicize the list. Pat, you kind of jump in here, what you think we should do with this list?
Well, my recommendation was, in order for it to have the effect that you're hoping, and that is to encourage a cleanup of those who are on the list, we need to have the list publicized so those folks are aware of it. I know that Russ has sent out notices to at least the top two on the list, because I have the return receipt on those. So the timeline has started to tick already for those. And this list is in a particular order. I mean, it's the way that your contracted entity is recommending that we approach them. So I think what you just do, I mean, I don't know if you have to necessarily read them off or do anything, but you know, let people know that the list is available. Maybe have it posted on the bulletin board or something outside your office, so that if people are concerned, you know, if you want to put it on the website, you can put it on the website. But if people want to know where they fall on the list in terms of, hey, how soon do I need to get my property cleaned up before the county's going to do it and bill me for it, this is their answer.
As an extension of that, I spoke with Bob Brown this weekend. He would be interested in bidding on cleanup properties. Also, I have a name from Bruce, from a gentleman in Mount Pleasant, who also would be interested in bidding. And then Bob Brown did inform me that Bob Kiefer is still around. Might have to contact Dick to see how to get a hold of Bob Kiefer. But would we want to, obviously, if we bid this out on each property, we might get it, you know, how do I want to say this? In some instances, the individual or individuals may not be able to clean up the property because of what whatever it is that requires cleanup, but if we bid it, is that a good process to go through?
I would say yes, and it also, helps to attempt to mitigate the cost of the cleanup for the property owner. I mean, we're not looking to stick anybody with a giant bill. What we're looking to do is get the property cleaned up. So if we can do it in the most cost-effective way, especially if we have competition or competing entities that are interested in the cleanup, that seems like a very reasonable way to do it.
Can we legally, and in fact, I'll just use one of the first ones on the list, we know has vehicles and other junk materials and stuff sitting on the property. Can we say to the person or persons that are bidding that those vehicles are yours to dispose of to help defer some of your cost?
I think the junk vehicles we can do that with.
Okay.
There are vehicles that are registered. I don't think that anybody loses possession of a registered vehicle or properly licensed vehicle through this process. So
Right.
it would depend on their status in terms of junk or using or usable vehicle.
So at this point, I would make a motion that we publicize this list. We can put it on the bulletin board out here as Pat suggested. And as Pat also let you know, we have served 2 individuals. So as he stated, the clock is ticking. And once we get to that point where it comes time to move to mitigate the nuisance, in between now and then, I will, with Chair's permission, will serve to solidify the entities that we can reach out to. Is that okay, Pat?
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay. So I make a motion that we publicize this list in means necessary to alert the public and those property owners that they are indeed on the list.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we'll get the list published. We'll probably hang it in the bulletin board section here in the courthouse. It's next to the auditor's door. And then we'll get the list out to the media as necessary. All right.
We have, we're down one person in our personnel.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll be down 2 people at the end of October. And, well, we're anticipating, but, I can't say for sure, but in January, there is very likely to be a retirement. So, we posted for one person to be hired in November 1st is what we're shooting for. That would be an equipment operator one. And we put the notice out here on the bulletin board, and we wait on any of the other 2 open positions. If we could end up with a 3rd open position, we'd still be just talking about filling this one until we know better what the finances are going to be due to the COVID. I mean, so far, I haven't really seen our county drop. I mean, we might not be up to what we were supposed to get, but we also were higher than we were at this point last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, just real quickly, my senior staffing, I still assume we'll be able to better take those in a timely fashion.
I mean, with still in this position, that would be easier to say yes to. If finances, don't drop, then I come January, if we have a person leave, then we would still just look and see what we intend to do. Before the board.
That makes sense.
Sorry about the an update, and I've only been updated through September.
All right. Thanks, Scott, for updating us on that, and that we have a job opening for the secondary roads department as an equipment operator 1. So we'll move on to make committee reports. Lee, did you have anything this week?
Yeah. Today, because the regional planning authority approved the request to move the 257th Street Bridge project into the 2021 TIP program. It's part of this bridge bundle that Scott was talking about, and I think it had more to do with what Polk County did.
Oh, it did, yeah. We were ready to submit September, like they would have preferred themselves, and then due to different issues, it got put back to October, and then it got put back to November. Well, once it goes into November, it's in a different federal fiscal year, so that's why they needed to do change it.
So we did indeed approve that at 1015 Transit. We are looking at purchasing, well, let me give you a real brief history. The city of Tumble in their infinite wisdom, and I use that term loosely, for whatever reason, closed a long-term bus stop and poured curbs and stuff so that the buses could no longer use it. Which, by the way, is against DOT rules because it was a 30-year useful life and they still have 10 years left on it. So they're going to have to buy that out. What that amounts to, I don't know, a smaller problem. But what they did by doing that is they forced all of the fixed route riders across the railroad track, across the river, to a parking lot. No shelter or nothing of that nature. It clearly has impacted our ridership, perfectly understandable. So what we're looking at doing in the process is we had to act. We had to get our customers back across the railroad track. It's not, handicapped people crossing the railroad track stuff. It's just so the Wapello County Historical Society has been in the old railway station building for several years, and they're moving. Amtrak is still in there. They pay $1,900 a month for the space that they rent. So we're looking at buying that building. We would park our fixed route buses there. That would be the local bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we're looking at buying the old Red Doe building as well. And if you come in on Main Street, when you get to the first big stoplight, Red Doe would be on your right. And so what we're thinking about doing is putting a shuttle there at no cost. And we'll take those folks from there, that area, over to the railway station where they can catch the fixed route bus to go wherever they want to go. Plus, since we're doing the shuttle, we can let them off at any of the local businesses that we go by, i.e. like Canteen or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at purchasing both of those buildings to accomplish that. And we thought for, I don't know, just because we thought it'd be a nice touch, that we would use a trolley. Of course, they're motorized and stuff now, and they're not on the tracks and that sort of thing. But because of the railway station and everything, we thought we would use the trolley as our shuttle. And if you've ever been down to Hannibal or anything, taking the tours, they have a little trolley. Mm-hmm. So we've got one that we can access, so we're thinking about doing that. The main idea is that we'll move our main offices, not our operation, but our administrative staff to the railway location. Then we also thought what we would do is we would tell Federal Transportation Administration / Amtrak, look, we'd love to have you guys here. We want you here, but we're not going to charge you any rent. We realize that it isn't going to be, it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but it's $1,900 a month that you can put somewhere else, and then we don't have to pay property tax on the building, and so it actually saves us money in the long run. So that's the big thing that we're working on there. And as you both have already, we had a short discussion before the meeting. I don't know what I did with it, but we purchased 2 ambulances.
Here's one copy.
Okay, the ambulance board purchased 2 ambulances and to provide to Care Ambulance, who will be taking over October 1st. Our share of the 2 ambulances is $81,000. That includes all of the striping, the cots and everything that needed to be there. One is a brand new 2020 F450. The other is a used F550. 125,000 miles on it. Bob Keller, who handles all of our mechanic work, inspected the used one. And so they have been stocked by Care. One of them is down here now because they're doing some training at the hospital today. So they will start October 1st. And the nice part is that we set aside, the board set aside $300,000 for this. We spent less than 100. We should keep some set aside, another 75,000 for, what do you call it, contingency fee. Yeah, but but that allows one of the things that we can potentially use that extra money. It's not extra, but money that was earmarked for the ambulances, potentially towards some cleanup costs.
Right.
So that's the thought process. That's all I've got. And Dee, I'm not running out on you, but I have sat here long enough. Literally.
Okay.
I had early childhood Iowa, pretty much a routine meeting. Everything's on track so far. For this fiscal year, we're going to have a lot of training in October. There's a lot of new board members, so Tammy Wheaton Kesterson is going to have a training for the board every Monday in October at 5 p.m. So today's topic is a deep dive into childcare, which I've been involved in since the beginning. So it's all good.
Okay.
And then Thursday, Chauncey and Darren and I went out and met with Friday, whatever day it was, with Bishop Nast, who turns out I knew.
Yeah. Yeah. That was pretty much my only committee meeting this week, was when we went out and met with Bishop Nast, and we're talking about the use of steel-wheeled vehicles on county paved roads in that area of the county, over on Dutch Boulevard, and then north up to Germanville and through that area. We expressed our concerns as to what we felt was going to be hopefully a longer term fix on what is going on out there. Possible options included the Amish community in the area voluntarily paying a set amount annually to the county for repair or replacement of specific portions of roadways that they use for moving equipment on. We also talked about other options that may apply to us at this point, to be able to not have the damage happen to a brand new roadway that we just paid $600,000 to pave out there. We discussed what the difference was between a gouge on the pavement and a scar on the pavement. The horses and the buggies pretty much just scar the top of the surface, whereas the steel-wheeled tractor or ribbed hay rack type trailer with steel wheels on it do a gouge into the pavement. And what happens is water collects in those. Over time, it penetrates the surface, which shouldn't happen with a new pavement, but it increases the likelihood of freeze-thaw damage through the wintertime, spring and fall. So they understand where the county is coming from. We're going to meet with the bishop once again, probably here in a couple of weeks. He's going to take some of those ideas to his community out there and be able to discuss what those alternatives are with them and come up with a solution. We do know that down in the Bloomfield area, Drakesville, there is another Amish community down there which does do the voluntary payment from the community to go towards just those roads that are being used by the steel-wheeled vehicles.
Yeah, they have two groups down there, and one voluntarily pays the county some money for damage, and one doesn't. So that's
Right.
totally voluntary. But he was very, very open, and it went very well. So we'll wait and see what comes from it. But it went well.
Yeah, it really did. And again, Chauncey Molding was along with us, so there was 3 of us that met with the bishop, and we had a really good discussion. We were out there for an hour probably, talking about different problems that we have with the roadways and how we want to try to stem off damaging a roadway that should last the county 25 to 30 years and not only having it last for 15 because of that. So they understand where we're coming from and what's going on. So that kind of concludes the committee reports. Do we have anything from the public? You came today to talk about nuisances or hear about them. Do you have any specific things you'd like to address us with on it, or do you think we're doing what we should?
You're doing a great job.
Okay.
I'm here to encourage you
Okay.
on this.
Okay.
Terrible, it's a sad. It's hard for everybody.
It is. And the hardest part that we have with that is the fact that people can go through the entire court process, be assigned fines for what's going on, but we aren't having them clean up the property. Once they're starting to pay the fines, they figure, well, it's all over with. I can just leave everything the way it is. And that's truly not the case. And that's truly not what we want to have come out of this. We want the properties cleaned up because, again, it affects you as a homeowner that's neighboring somebody like that, or it reduces your property tax value, that reduces the value of your home pretty much. And we don't want that to happen either, because someday you may want to sell your property and having an eyesore next to you makes it difficult to do that. So we want to make sure that this process moves along, and I think Pat McVan is doing a really good job with that. I believe Russ is doing a very good job with that. I know there's some discussion about not having them and having it come back to the Board of Supervisors to do all of the pictures and documentation and legwork that's involved with that. Quite frankly, that would be a full-time job for at least one of us here on the board, and I don't think that's time well spent for us as supervisors when it comes to the grander scheme of things that are around the county. And I know it costs us around $50,000 annually to have Russ do this, but there is a tremendous amount of documentation that has to take place, and you also, with them, you get I'm not someone that's known this person for 40 years, and I really have a hard time trying to force this on him because it makes me feel uncomfortable in a situation like that. And I know that's the same thing that's been expressed by Dee and Lee and other supervisors before this when they started to hire Russ to take on this. And I think we've seen a lot more actual cases going through the court system to begin with, and we've seen people actually clean up after that process has happened. But yet we still have a problem with those that want to pay their fines and think that everything's all over with. And they
Well,
don't
and
have to
that
clean
fee
up.
to us also includes everything. It's mileage, it's paper, it's everything.
Yeah.
There's no IFRS on top of it.
No.
There's
No
benefits.
insurance,
It's
no
just a
benefits.
straight contract, and they are very objective.
Right. And it takes the personal aspect out of it. And I thank you for saying that you appreciate what we do.
It's been a long process, for sure, but
Yes.
we want to do it right.
Right, exactly. And the unfortunate part of a supervisor, again, doing it is the fact that we know a lot of people here in the county, and it's tough for us to go out again and again and say, you got to clean this up, and then them coming here to appeal it to us rather than going through the court process to try to appeal to having either mitigation done or not mitigating a problem, depending on how they've done cleanup along the way. So there's a tremendous amount of work that's done by them for the amount of money that we pay them. And I think we get a lot of bang for our dollar with that. So I appreciate you hanging in there. We're working as hard as we can towards this, and we're going to try to get things more cleaned up. Well, that's the other part of it too. So.
And that's exactly right. We had a gentleman in here the other day that I've known for 20 years. He gave the ground for 5 acres. But by definition, he meets his property currently meets the definition of a nuisance. And as Dee or Darren both indicated, and you indicated, when Kent or Bruce look at that, strictly black and white, this would be the definition.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in, John's name, he came in and we talked. In fact, he called me and we talked. And then I'm very comfortable at that point because I can say, well, we're treating everybody in this thing, it's an equal application. So because you're on the end of a gravel road, it doesn't say in the nuisance ordinance, except if you're on the end of a gravel road. Okay. And so, which is something that I pushed for a long, long time when I first came here, is that we're not going to apply it equally and then let's repeat it. So now, as Darren indicated, we've got an individual or individuals that we've hired. You indicated, look at it in terms of black and white. Does it meet the definition? It's equally applied. And we move forward to that. And then I'm much more comfortable in that process than I was the way we do it.
All right, we'll move on to allow claims and approve reports.
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to allow the claims and approve the reports. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Again, we've discussed and considered nuisance properties, and we have a plan in place for posting up those properties that are on our most wanted list, as you would kind of put it, so we can move on from that. And then I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting so we can go on a road tour.
I would make that motion and let the board know that I will be unavailable for the road tour. Conduct some financial business this morning.
Okay.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to adjourn this meeting and head to our road tour. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Thank you very much for everybody that joined us via Zoom this morning. We appreciate your attendance, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.